This game is so immersive, so real, that I almost fell asleep playing it, which is crazy because if you like strategy or micromanagey games like I do, this game isn't boring. In fact, outside looking in, this game has a solid foundation. I can see the devs adding more and more features to the point you can easily lose yourself in this game. As to why I almost fell asleep, we'll talk about it later, but let's start this review with the mechanics. One of the things I really liked about this game is just how much you can customize your store. You can change almost everything in it. Your own personal corner grocery store doesn't have to look like a generic clone with tile floors and concrete walls. You can change everything from the colors of carpeted floors to wood floors if you want a more classic look. By default, you have a storage room in the back, and if you want a bigger one, you simply purchase an upgrade to make that happen. It's weird how you can't purchase storage racks for the storage room until you reach level 6, when it took me 3 hours just to get to level 5, but I could just be bad at this game. Also, they really need to add something like a cart or a forklift because these boxes cannot be properly carried into the building, and it gets increasingly tedious the busier it gets. I'm getting off track though. In general, the upgradability thing applies to the whole interior of the building because, like you'd expect in all things retail, it's all about upgrades. Unlike many simulator games, this one has you doing the prep work yourself, allowing you to open and close the store whenever you want. Yeah, you could stay open 24/7 if you wanted, but this game makes that very difficult without building up your business. You can throw things on the shelves and open up, but as the day progresses, things go flying off those shelves fast. To restock your supplies, you have to run over to the computer, place an order with a mouse that's awkwardly positioned where a keyboard would normally be, and then run outside to grab the order that's been instantaneously filled for you. And once you grab the package, you run back inside, smack it on a shelf, and it neatly restocks itself. That last part sounds convenient, but the more money you make, the busier things get and the more shelves you have to do this with. This matters because if people can't find what they're looking for or wait too long at the register, your store's popularity goes down, which dips into profits. If it makes you feel better, you can add a self-checkout, but just like in real life, someone is going to ignore it and bring 1 or 2 items to the belt anyway. As of this video, there's a new update to the game that adds employees. My employees weren't working properly though, and by properly I mean at all. Literally, less than a minute after I hired him, he vanished. Poof. I just assumed he realized working at a convenience store isn't what he wanted out of life, which feels a little too real to me, but that's a great segue into talking about the theme. Now, this game is essentially a super easy mode version of running your own business, but it still feels like a good intro to running your own business. As far as the simulator experience goes, the devs are on the right track because this very much feels like a simulator. From the moment you look at your store, it's clear you either have to figure something out or you're going bankrupt. The place starts off pretty rough with graffiti on the walls, no place to stock your products, and trash scattered inside and out. There is a light tutorial in the beginning, but realistically you don't even need it since it's obvious your first task is to roll up your sleeves and clean the place up before you can even think about opening. Once I got my shop up and running, an hour in my brain stopped feeling stimulated since I spent most of my workday ringing people up at the register. This was about the time I started to fall asleep, but I persisted in the name of immersion. The rest of this game is fun, if not a little lacking. Ringing people up at the register, on the other hand, is ultra immersion levels of boring, minus having to bag anything. For what it's worth though, I feel like being a cashier at a place like this would be boring in reality too, so they're nailing it with the theme. The graphics on the other hand are okay. Visual appeal can really make or break a game, but VR has some leniency with this. Subpar graphics are something usually associated with indie games, and indie games make up a vast majority of VR titles in the current landscape. That said, the graphics are pretty much what you'd expect from a 2024 VR game, if not a little lower. They're not so terrible that you can't make out the labels on the expired food you're illegally selling. The NPCs, on the other hand, for what it's worth, do have a nice bit of variety. You will notice some clones and repetitiveness, but they're mixed up enough for you to pretend they're just regulars at your store. Otherwise, some NPCs have too many folds on their foreheads, which bothers me probably more than it should, but one thing I have a harder time getting past is the audio. In general, I expected more from the audio here. Even some generic AI music for the customers would have gone a long way towards making me not sleepy. When you first load up the game, aside from the music in the main menu, there's this short 10-second jingle that plays when you enter the storage room. You won't hear it again though unless you restart the game, which I can only assume is a bug. Other than that, you get the occasional expected sounds like mouse clicks when using the inventory computer, the door chime when someone comes in, and that generic cash register sound that plays when someone pays with cash. Inside the store, you don't even hear footsteps or people rustling groceries, which, in my opinion, hurts the immersion just a bit. Outside of the store though, you can hear street traffic, which, to its credit, sounds pretty immersive. The options on the other hand are also pretty unimpressive. This game doesn't have much going on, but it still feels poorly optimized. There are basic options for movement and rotation, but outside of that, you only get an in-game FPS counter. Don't get me wrong, I love seeing in-game FPS counters, but there's nothing else here like graphical settings or height calibration. You can play this game seated, but only if you start your whole VR experience seated, since it seems like there's some kind of hidden auto height calibration. For a game that most people would probably prefer to play seated, I'm surprised they didn't make a more integrated seated gameplay option. But that's just my personal preference, and at the end of the day, as long as the game is immersive, I'm all for it. And that just leaves the question, is this game immersive? If you've seen my videos before, you already know what's coming up next. Let's check the scoreboard for this game. Mechanics gets a 2 out of 6. The foundation for a great game is here, but basic things like the broom vanishing when dropped and hired help not working the way they're supposed to hurt the experience here. Theme gets a 4 out of 6 because this is very much a simulation-like experience. From cleaning and restocking to sales, this game captures the broader picture of owning your own small store. Graphics gets a 2 out of 6 because for a game with not much going on, it should be running smooth as butter, but it's a bit choppy at times. Audio gets a 1 out of 6 because from an audio standpoint, this game just feels empty. The lack of variety in this area makes the game feel bland when it doesn't have to. And lastly, options gets a 2 out of 6 because there's almost nothing here. Options avoided scoring a 1 because there's not really much in the way of options needed for a game like this. I can see the devs really fleshing out this game though and adding all kinds of features like store music, forklifts, and new items. But as it stands, this game feels like it should be in early access. VR games are moving forward for sure, but right now they're in a weird place where the exact same game that would be considered early access on PC is a full release on the MetaQuest store. Still, this is a simulator, and if nothing else, it's definitely immersive. And for that reason, this game has earned an overall immersion score of 3 out of 6. In my opinion, this game is not worth the $15 they're charging for it at the time of this review. But if you can snag this one for half off, I'd say it's worth a shot. And speaking of giving things a shot, you should check out some of my other reviews on the channel. Insert the obligatory like and subscribe here, and until next time, stay immersed.